Welcome to Theory of Paranormal. My name is Pax with my co-host Dalton. This is going to be podcast episode number 4 of season 3 and is going to be on a variety of questions related to the paranormal experience and views and opinions that me and Dalton have. So before we unpack that, we would just like very much to welcome any new listeners that are listening to Theory of Paranormal and all returning listeners that we have listening to Theory of Paranormal. And we much appreciate everybody tuning into our podcast to hear what we have to say and what we are about. And also, if you found us randomly listening to your favorite podcast player, we appreciate it. We can also be found at theoryparanormal.com, which will have a little bit of information about Theory of Paranormal, and will also show all the places that we are highlighted and showcased on the interwebs across the world and globe. So, with all of that being said, how are you doing this wonderful day, Mr. Dalton?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Another day in paradise. You know, it's been a busy few weeks since we've been able to sit down and jump into another podcast. Me and Dalton do have things that we do during the week daily. We got responsibilities like everybody else. So we do this podcast when we can make time for it. It is a hobby of ours, and we like imparting wisdom and sharing opinions and theories on the paranormal and a variety of things when we can. So besides that, things have been going very well. Thank you for asking, Dalton.
Round and round every day, man.
There you go.
Round and round.
Round and round. So I understand that some individuals ended up contacting you and they had a bunch of questions that they wanted me and you to go over.
Yeah, we always put out there that if anybody wants, wants us to, basically, if they got an idea for a podcast and they say, hey, I got this question, or, kind of wants you to build some kind of cast around it, we tell them we do that. So family member reached out to me, put us to the test on that. Her name's Jamie, and her best friend, Ashley. They kind of butted heads, not butted heads, but put their heads together and came up with quite a few questions there.
Okay. Well, Jamie and Ashley, appreciate the submission to Theory of Paranormal. I know I myself and Dalton will do our best to field and answer the questions that we can and give some insight from our perspectives and opinion and theories to give some enlightenment to what it is you may ask. So
what it entails on is that Jamie kind of asked me, what would, kind of like, what kind of podcast are we looking to do? And I said, well, we do about everything. And I said, my suggestion to you is, if you wanted to have one created, is to think about what you would ask a paranormal investigator or anybody in the paranormal if you happen to meet them, or they just walk up to you and you find out they're dealing with the paranormal. What questions would pop off the top of your head to ask them, kind of thing? And that's kind of where these questions are based off. Is basically like they're asking. Some of them are directly at us, and some of them are just general questions. Very good questions, though. I read through the list, and I think these are going to be pretty interesting. So,
okay,
should be good.
Well, I'm definitely curious and interested to hear what some of these questions are. So,
well, let's go with the first one because we got a list. I almost think they wrote a novel. But
there you go. Usually it's like one or two. Somebody might stop us and be like, "Oh, what do you do?" Quick question, but here's a book. I need you to answer all these, please.
When I had to move my thumb twice to scroll up or 3 times to scroll up, it's almost a novel.
There you go.
But anyway, first question they had was, what's the first paranormal experience that made you question reality? So do you want to go first?
That's a big one. Sure, I can. The first paranormal experience that made me question reality. Okay. I have one that comes to mind very vividly and point blank. Now, as a setting the stage on this, at the time, I was too young to know what was going on. In my mind, it was just, okay, and that's it. But at the time, I was about, I would say, 7, maybe 8 years old. And I lived in a pretty old house at the time up north in the United States. And I remember being woken up one night and my room was pitch dark. I'm like, okay. And I thought I heard a noise and I opened my eyes. And I remember vividly, it was wintertime. And crack my eyes open and I look around my bed. And my bed is in the corner of the room, shoved up against the wall. So you can only walk around the bed from the front and to the right side. And I see what appeared to be figures, grayish, translucent, with white and black shadowish figures standing all around my bed, maybe about 7 or 8 individuals. And when I saw this, the first thought was, I'm dreaming. The second thought was, this isn't normal. And then the third thought was, I'm tired. I'm going back to sleep. And I remember just turning over in my bed because I was laying on my back originally, turned over on my left side and just went back to sleep and just ignored it. And the feeling I had inside was the equivalent if someone's knocking on your door at the house and you don't want to pay any attention to that individual or you just want to ignore them. So you're just like, whatever. That's how I was at that young age about whatever it was that I was seeing. I was just like, whatever, I'm tired. And that particular memory, believe it or not, I forgot about for a long time until it came back to me in my late teens, early 20s. And the thing that surprised me the most is it would be something I would think about in my older age now, logically. It would scare the bejesus out of anybody if they experienced that as a young kid. But for some reason, it wasn't like that to me. I don't know if it's because I didn't have a baseline of understanding of what I was looking at. I didn't know if it was because I just didn't sense any emotional input inside me. I didn't have any fear. I didn't have sadness. I wasn't feeling anything. It was just something that I saw, but it didn't register to me emotionally, physically, energy-wise, nothing. And so I was just like, whatever. But later on in life, as I thought about this experience over and over, it made me realize that at a young age, there was more to myself than what I realized if I was able to see this with my eyes wide open. Secondly, it showed me that for whatever reason, those spirits or entities or individuals or guardians or angels, whatever you want to call them, they chose to allow themselves to be seen by me. So, if anything, of it being my very first paranormal experience that I've been a part of, and I've been part of many, ironically, is I believe the paranormal side picks and chooses what it reveals to you, the individual, the person, providing there may be an aptitude or an ability, or sometimes as I say, a gift, even though you don't say that, of being a certain way inside, of being able to perceive or receive imagery, feelings, thoughts, energy, whatever. So that was my very first paranormal experience that made me say, yeah, there's something else there in the world that we don't quite understand yet.
Well, you were asleep, so you also probably figured, "Hey, I'm just seeing things because I'm tired." They probably weren't. What do you want to say? They probably weren't trying to harm you or anything. That's why you didn't really feel anything. So I could see that, man, just rolling over and being like, whatever, like
That's exactly
I'm
what
tired.
it was. That's exactly what it was. I was cold because it was wintertime. It was an old house. Insulation wasn't that great. I was tired and just like, yeah.
Yeah. You just thought, yeah, my eyes are playing tricks on me and boom, I'm going back to sleep. And if you are there, okay, good night.
Yeah.
That's kinda,
That's it in a nutshell. What about you, Mr. Dalton? What was your first real experience to make you say, wait a minute, something's going on here?
Well, I've been dealing with it for a long time. So even before this experience happened, I would say the experience was more of a wake up call than it was anything else. I was experiencing things way before my first actual experience, if that makes sense. I mean, like I was you kind of say how are you experiencing things before you actually, well, I'm talking about like an actual thing that actually makes you go, okay, that's real. So other things, hearing things, seeing things, whatever. I did all that growing up. I was young, probably, I don't know. I don't even think I hit my teens yet. I was probably 8 or 9, maybe 10. Uh, and a buddy of mine where I used to live, we rode three wheelers all over the place. And I used to tell him about some of the paranormal stuff that, at that time I didn't know what to call it. I was like, man, I heard like this old dude in my room and he's having a conversation and blah blah blah. And he's like, oh, you're just hearing things, blah blah. So we rode out on the three wheeler one day and we come across this old cemetery. I'd mentioned this before, but it was kind of brief in another podcast. But we come across this old cemetery, weeds growing up around the headstones. But what happened was he drove, it looked like a field, so he started to drive into it and he kind of stopped suddenly because he came, put the front tire he almost run over a headstone. He's like, is that a gravestone? And I'm like, yeah. And so he backed backed the three wheeler up and we were just sitting there. So he got off and he started walking through and he's like, and I started to have this sensation like didn't really want to go in there. Like there was something I wouldn't say unnerving. I would say not I wasn't understanding what I was feeling because now I'm picking up energy and I'm picking up sadness and I'm picking up, different types of feelings and stuff. And I didn't know how to take that. I'm like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I, I'm just thinking to myself and I'm a kid, man. Like, what's going on here? So finally, you're a kid, you gotta man up, you gotta put your big boy panties on and play with the other big kids. He's like, oh, are you scared? Kind of like, I used to laugh watching Back to the Future when they did that with Marty. You chicken? And nobody calls me chicken. But anyway, that's kind of where I was. And so I was like, nah, man, I'll come out there. So I come out there and I didn't walk probably 5 yards into the graveyard. This thing was huge. It was just out in the middle of nowhere. It's like, and reluctantly they had gravel pits all around it. That's what we were riding in was the gravel pits. So they understood that cemetery was there and they didn't bother it. They put the gravel pits all around it, but didn't bother that plot. And so I was about 5 yards in, man. And I was looking and I said, man, these gravestones are like 1700s. There was a couple 1600s. And then you got into some of the 1800s and a very few early 1900s gravestones. And I was standing there looking at one and something had my attention. Like, why am I standing here basically just staring at this headstone on the ground? Because back then they didn't have those big fancy ones. They were all ground level pretty much. And I'm sitting there looking down at it and I'm staring at it. And about that time, man, it's like something came out of the grave or out of the ground and grabbed my ankle part. I had tennis shoes on at that time. I wasn't into cowboy boots back then, but I had tennis shoes on. It's like they grabbed my right above my ankle on the lower part of my calf. It's something you could feel the grip, like something just gripped. So
You mean
I jumped up real.
you mean like something invisible that you couldn't see?
Yeah, yeah, something. I just was standing there and I never seen anything, but I felt it, and it felt just like somebody grabbing my leg, the lower part of my leg. And about the time that I jumped up and was like, "Holy cow!" and my buddy, he jumped up at the same time, like we did it right at the same time. And I kind of looked over at him and I was like, "Did somebody like we didn't run? We should have probably just ran, but we stopped and we looked at each other." And I was like, "Did somebody just grab your leg?" And he goes, "Yeah, man." And it did at the same time. They grabbed us, and all of a sudden it happened again. They grabbed us again, and we kind of jumped up. Like you automatically just want to pick your leg up, like whatever's grabbing you, you want to rip your leg out from it. So you see both of us kind of like picking our leg up, and then we just kind of like walk very fastly, like at a real fast, steady pace, right out back to the 3-wheeler. Got back on it, didn't say nothing to nobody, or not even each other, basically. There wasn't nobody else out there. Rode back to the back side of my house, got off the 3-wheeler, and we just kind of sat there for a minute drinking I think it was a Sprite or something. It was a soda. But anyway, we were drinking a cold soda, and we just kind of stayed there and looked at each other. And he said, "So you hear an old man walking through your room and he's having conversation?" I said, "Yeah, man, I hear stuff all the time. I see shadows. I see things." And he goes, "And we just got grabbed." And I said, "Yeah, but here's the thing. I felt really weird about walking out there, and I didn't really feel like going out there. Something told me not. I don't know if it was telling me not to go out there, but it was not clear on what was going on with my feelings and whether or not I should walk out there. But I did anyway, because you kind of, and so we both were kind of like, yeah, something grabbed our leg. And I said, right at the same time, I said, it was weird. It was the same time, like two different entities, because he was probably 10 yards away from me. And so it was like two different entities grabbed us at the same time. And it really freaked us out that I didn't know, like I still don't know the word paranormal. I'm not looking at ghosts or saying the word ghost or anything. What I'm seeing is like, am I crazy? Like, is this crazy or not? But anyway, that's my first. I've always had experience, but that's like the first experience that brought reality of the paranormal to me, and actually a friend of mine.
Very interesting.
So, like I said, I mentioned that before in another podcast, but not to that extent. But
Right.
second question, you ready for that, or you got anything you want to say about the person?
You know, it's ironic that we both had different instances of an experience, but we both more or less said the same thing, that we couldn't really comprehend because we were young, we didn't know better, and it was just like we took it for what it was at face value, you know? Like there wasn't
Right.
that understanding or the backing or the logic or the education that we have now. None of that was there. So we just were like, okay. You know?
Yeah, just like there was no understanding of it because, like I said, I'm gonna say that probably neither one of us, we didn't. I mean, you watch stuff on TV, them horror shows and scary movies and stuff that your mom says, "Oh, you can't watch because you'll have nightmares or whatever," and you sneak in your room and you watch them anyway. And that's what I did. But and you think, "Oh, that's just TV stuff," but then you start actually seeing things and hearing things, and then something actually grabs you, or like you saw a bunch of them standing in your room, and you're just kind of like, yeah, whatever. And then now you realize when you look back at it, you had a pretty good paranormal experience for your first go round. So, but second question, have you ever felt a presence that didn't match the room's energy, something ancient, sorrowful, or protective?
All right. I'll let you go first on this one.
All right. Have you ever felt a presence that didn't match the room's energy, something protective, ancient, or sorrowful? Yes. I think both of us have. You'll tell your side, but on many occasions, not just one or two, but many occasions have I walked in and basically felt the presence of one thing and then found out it's something else. Hence, when we talk about tricksters and why I normally tell people it is kind of, if you want to say dangerous or whatever, I kind of watch how I put things out there, because people always will take that one word and stress like, "Oh, you're saying it's really dangerous." No, I'm just saying, like, there's sometimes you just don't want to be there. Like just go away. If you don't know what it is you're dealing with, go away. But yes, I have very well felt a presence that didn't match the room. Like the room's energy was the room. Let's say the room's energy could have been light. Like my chest wasn't bothering me. I didn't feel like I was being sat on or nothing. But now the presence of the actual entity felt very strong, and it was very weird on why the entity, you can sense the entity, the spirit, or just the energy. Now, you could be talking just energy now, not necessarily a spirit or an entity, but just some energy that was left behind or some energy that's just sitting stagnant in that area that you're in, you could be just feeling that and not actually like when you walk out of that room, the rest of the house or building or wherever you're at, the rest of the presence feels normal. But you could just walk into what we call imprinting, and you could walk into an imprint of something dark or negative or, just doesn't feel right, but then walk back out and the rest of the place feels fine. So, you know, I I guess that is kind of the best answer I can give for that. What about you?
Hmm. Well, for myself, when I walk into a room, I mean, I physically see what it's like. And if it's an old room, from the 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, it's like psychologically and mentally, that's your brain, at least for me, looks at it and goes, yeah, this is on par. This is what it feels like. It's old. It's from this era. But then inside, I'll get a feeling of it either goes along with what I'm seeing or something different. And there's been times, I'll agree with you, where we've done stuff together with investigations and when I've done things also myself that things just didn't add up. Something felt not correct. Something felt out of place, not right. And like you said, normally that gut instinct or feeling leads to something else. It leads to an understanding of why our impressionism is one thing that we see or hear or initially feel going into that environment. But then after being there, there could be something or some things, more than one, lingering there. And at least I can say for being intuitive that it throws things off because from my perspective, being intuitive, I have to know where I stand for my baseline. My baseline is how I know I feel inside all the time. Then if I feel something that's exterior of how I feel, then I have to reconcile and try to understand this additional sensory input. And then at the same time, I'm looking with my eyes and logic in my brain, and then I'm getting another impression of what's going on by what I see visually. So then I could potentially contending with three different feelings or stimuli or input per se. And then it's a matter of trying to sort it all out. Sometimes to the benefit of the investigation that I'm doing, it's actually better that I'm able to perceive something different than what is there presenting itself because it helps with the investigation. It will add clarity to something. Sometimes, like Dalton said, tricksters, the loosely term used for something that is trying to perceive or show it's one way, but in reality, it's completely different. Sometimes it's benign, sometimes it's malicious, sometimes it's a jokester, you know? But point being is that, yes, going into environments, I do believe there are different things that could be perceived versus initially going in and just having an initial base reading and saying, okay, this is how it is.
Well, that's one thing you got to do as an investigator. You got to learn to, first of all, me personally, my opinion again. So, other investigators out there in the world, everybody does everything different. This is just me saying what I do. And what I do is I try to shut down what I see. I try to get behind the exterior, if that makes sense. Like I'm trying to see behind the visual aspect of reality. Like, what can I see? Okay, I see this. Well, what's behind that veil? And I'm trying to block off what I see because I don't want that interrupting what I'm going to pick up behind that. Because what may be behind that is not what's actually seen in your reality. Because whoever passed away or whatever, they could be seeing their reality in that area. So you could have, though, that's another way that you can feel a presence, but didn't match that, let's say, that room. Let's say you walk into a doctor's office or a makeshift doctor's office. Like May Stringer's got a doctor's office because there used to be a doctor that lived there and he used to work out of the house.
You're
You
talking
walk in that room and
you're talking about the May Stringer house,
yeah, that's what I said, May Stringer house.
right? Which is
And
in
so
Central Florida, I believe.
yeah, Brooksville. It's down, central, west central.
Okay.
You can check out the May Stringer podcast. It'll tell you all about where to go to look for it and everything. But anyway, you walk into that doctor's room and all you see is a bunch of medical stuff, right? So your mind is already starting to compute medical, right? What I do is I try to close that down because I know there's something else there. Like that room was something else before it was a medical room. Somebody else lived there. And I'll start picking that up. So I guess that's kind of a better example than what I gave of felt a presence that didn't match the room's energy. The room's energy is medical, but I felt a presence that was before that, if that makes sense. And so I started picking up that and what that room initially was before then, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But jokesters and tricksters, you definitely got to watch out for because they always try to make it feel like, for instance, I walk in that doctor's office, that medical room, and that entity tries to make me feel like he's the person that was created that room, right? But behind that curtain, I sense that this entity is something else. Is different. Like he's just playing a game, trying to make me think that he was. I think it was Dr. Stringer. Was Stringer the doctor? I believe. So he could have made me think that he was the doctor, and I might have fell for it for a little bit. But then later, I'm picking up something different, like something else is going on here. And then I realized the guy's just playing a part. This entity is just playing a part. He's actually somebody else, but he's trying to play the part. So yes, multiple investigations, you'll run into that kind of stuff. Whether it's a trickster, I call them tricksters. Whether they're jokers, whatever. But if you don't try to block out what you can physically see, like take that out of your mind, and then get in behind the veil, then you're just going to see a one-way street, and it's only going to feel like the one presence, and that presence matches the room that you're in, and you're just going to be like, well, now I understand this room, but you really don't. So, I could go deep into that rabbit hole too, but I'm not not trying to.
Got it.
So
So, all right. So we just talked about our first paranormal experience, and then we talked about, do we believe impressionism of a room if it's the right, correct read going into it, or if there's something else there versus what we initially thought? What?
yeah, basically felt a presence that didn't match the room. So now
Okay.
number 3, and we've kind of talked about this before in some other episodes, but do you think dreams can be a form of paranormal contact? If so, what's the strangest dream visitation you've had?
I'll let you go first on this one.
All right. Well, what's the strangest dream or visitation I've had? None that I can recall, actually. I'll just answer that part because that's pretty simple. I don't think I've had any visitation dreams. I don't dream that much for some reason, but when I do, it is something about paranormal, or it is, if it comes to me, it's something that needs to be known, basically, is all I'm going to say about that. Do I think that the dreams can be a form of paranormal contact? Oh, yes, definitely. I say it all the time. All the time. When you're a kid, as though Pax was talking about when he was a child and he's seeing the figures in his room. Well, at that point, you're more receptive to the paranormal when you're younger because your mind is more open. You're young, you're innocent, and your mind is wide open. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe you actually use more of your brain when you're younger than when you're older. That's just my opinion. Because when you get older, a lot of things shut down and a lot of people become one way. Like, this is a one track way. This is the way I'm going, and that's it. It's what I call living outside the box or living in the box. So when you're older, of course, that contact that you see, like the invisible friend that you had when you were a child and you were sitting there talking and your parents thought you were weird and they didn't really understand that there probably actually was somebody sitting there talking with you, but they don't close that out because they're adults now. So for adults, when you become an adult, when you sleep, your mind opens up again. It somehow becomes more open. And yes, you are more perceptive, or acceptance. You have acceptance to the paranormal when you're an adult because while you sleep, you're more open to it. So yes, a lot of dreams. I'm not going to say all of them, but a lot of them. Even the ones they say if you see yourself die in a dream that you're actually going to die. That's not true. There's a meaning behind that. So if you dream something, even about an animal, you standing in the forest and there's a bear or a tiger or a lion or some animal standing in front of you. We talked about this, that has a meaning. There's a meaning. Go research it. Go look it up. If you dream that you were dying, it's basically closing a chapter in your life. You're basically like starting a new job, or you got a promotion, or even if you got fired or whatever. It's something you're closing a door on. It's dead and gone, and you're opening a door to a new way. Now, anybody can feel free to go research that. We did mention it in the podcast. So yes, I believe not all the dreams will make sense. I found some people that have dreams. You have to go into like 2 or 3 nights of their dreams to figure out kind of what's going on. Not all the dreams are actually paranormal. Some of them are just, I don't know, just thoughts that you had. You might be processing something in your sleep. You might be trying to figure something out. But I would say a big percentage, I'd say about 85, 90% of the dreams that you have basically are a form of paranormal contact. If you seen your grandmother and you guys were walking through a field or on a baseball field or wherever she took you, and you were holding hand in hand and it felt so real, you can feel the wind in your face. You can feel her holding your hand. You can sense everything around you. Well, it's most likely she came to visit. Could be your grandfather, could be your mother, father, uncle, whoever passed away that wants to make contact. Yes, I believe that through dreams that the entities, spirits, and other paranormal sources, whether it be angels, whoever trying to warn you of something or giving you, like I said, a sign if you're standing in front of a bear in the wilderness, or it could be any animal or anything. Look it up. It could be a color. You could be out there and all you see is color, a certain color. Well, go research that. That color might mean something, and then it might make your dream make sense. But yes, I do believe that dreams can be a form of paranormal contact. What about you, Sir Pex?
No, I think everything you said is wrong completely.
Cool.
No.
Let me fold my book up. I'm going home now.
Right? No. I think dreams happen for a multitude of reasons. I think it's been a proven fact. The brain literally deprograms itself when you sleep, consciously or subconsciously. It's a way to de-stress and relax yourself. So that could be a reasoning for the dreams. Subconscious stuff, I think, leaks out in the dreams. So I think that's another reason for dreams. Do I think you can be contacted via dreams? Loved ones, spirits, entities, guides, guardian angels, watchers, master guides, whoever you think's on the other side, 100%. There are certain types of dreams that you can have. You can have dreams where you're watching it like first person, like a movie. There's dreams that you're actively in, like you said about the wind blowing through the hair and all that stuff. That is a type of dream because you're actually experiencing everything. You're a part of it. There are dreams to where you could be getting information imparted to you. There are dreams that can foreshadow events that are going to happen in the future. There are dreams that can show you a path of something that could happen, but may not happen if your life doesn't go down that road. All those experiences that I just said, I've actually had all of those happen to me. And from my theory on the paranormal, see what I did there? Nice plug.
Very well, sir. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you, kind sir. You're a scholar and a gentleman. I think yes, dreams can be a conduit for the paranormal. From a metaphysical sense, when you are sleeping, physicality wise, besides your heart pumping and your breathing, physically and your blood moving, you physically are doing nothing else. You are not in control of anything of your body. So then at that point, you have your consciousness, which is sleeping in your brain. You got your soul, you got your energy. You have everything else at play on the metaphysical side of the world. Metaphysical meaning energy. It could be, astral planes. It could be different levels of dimensions. It could be where everybody else is on the other side that we can't see. And all of that might come into play that may affect you when you're sleeping. So just something to think about.
Well, your brain never shuts off. So
no, never.
It fires off. They say it fires off almost as much electricity as a utility box, like where all your breakers are and stuff. But it fires off quite a bit of power, and it's constantly firing off energy.
The synapses going in your brain and all that stuff. Yep.
Yeah, it's constantly sending stuff, receiving. So yeah, and then like I said, when you're sleeping, your mind is like you're not awake, but your mind is awake, and at that point, I believe, kind of my opinion, because you're not awake and you're not visually seeing or hearing things. That's what interrupts your brain.
Yep.
During the daytime.
Yep.
Is because you're actually seeing and hearing, and your brain's trying to commute what that is. When you're sleeping, you're not seeing or hearing anything, basically. I mean, yeah, you might hear, if you're a light sleeper like me, like I'll hear the neighbor's dog bark, or I'll hear something move in the house or something, I'll pick something up, but then I go back to sleep. But my brain's not really focusing on that. And it's more open. So it's constantly, that's why they say when you sleep, I believe that your body heals better. That's why you need a certain amount of sleep to let your body heal.
8 hours
it's
a night.
Time that
Yep.
Right. It's time for your body to shut down, your sensories to shut down.
Recuperate.
And your body, your mind, all that energy inside you, and your mind and your soul, everything is just taking over.
Well, not only that, but it's been a proven fact. When you actively are in I don't want to say a stasis state, but you are in that mode, your cells change in your body. They start doing things. They start going to work to repair things. They actively do things at a higher level than what they would do if you're physically consciously awake. It's like your body knows what's up. So it's pretty cool.
You're kind of like in that, what they call a deep REM sleep.
Yep.
Like a really deep sleep. So yeah, your mind is still going. So there's no reason why something can't communicate with you while you're sleeping, because your mind is, and like I said, your mind is more open at night because you're not seeing or hearing stuff. So you're not having your visual, you're not having your hearing.
Nope. Not having your physical.
Your mind.
Yep. All those senses, not your smell. So what's the next question we got on deck here?
Well, did you ever have the strangest dream of visitation? Have you ever had a visitation? That was the second part of that.
I personally never had a visitation by anything. I've had a dream before that was a premonition, I could say, about me being in combat and dying in the military. But I can happily say that's not the case because I'm here talking right now. So, yay me.
Well, yay everybody, because we get your presents. So that's a good thing.
Yep, including Christmas.
That's right. and your family thanks you for that.
Oh, I'm sure.
All right. So next question. Are hauntings always about spirits, or can they be echoes of unresolved emotion, trauma, or memory? You go first.
Yes. Your turn. No. I would say honestly.
Yes. Let's go to the next question.
Honestly, that was a very well posed question and in written. Yes to all of those reasons, because I believe you can have something spark up and happen because of residual energy. I believe you can have something happen because of an event that was traumatic, or it could even be not traumatic. It could be positive, that did something in the environment. I believe an event could happen because of the individual that's in the area. And I also wholeheartedly believe an event could happen because it's seasonal, you know, with the different solstices and the equinoxes and the planetary alignments and energy and shifting of balance of power and tidal waves. And I mean, you name it, all of this stuff affects energy. I think all of that comes into play when it comes to affecting an environment. And, with the paranormal, normally it's always about scary stuff. Booga booga as it goes with, the scary noise that people said once upon a time, us old people. But my point being is it doesn't always have to be something scary. It could be something positive. It could be something enlightening. It could be, you're over by an area and you hear little kids laugh, or you hear something say hello, or you hear, something say hi, or whatever the case may be. So I think all of those reasons that were stated are all valid for reasons why. From my personal experience, I have experienced a handful of those reasons. So it's not just because, it's only this time of the year, or it's because it's this time at night or early in the morning, or because I'm only in this part of the country or this particular state or this city. Everything has happened at different levels and ways to show me that there's a variety of things that can happen. So, at that point in time, then it's a matter of just looking at the environment, going, is there a history of activity? Is there a known stressor event that happened that can incite activity? Is there any history to items that are placed in the environment? You look at all these different things logically to say, okay, well, logically this has happened. Here's maybe why it's happening still. Or you look at introduction of things in the environment to say, what's changed? Could this be a cause and effect? And go from there. Sometimes, which has happened more times than not in my experience, I equate the other side with spirits, entities, people. Even though they're on somewhere else, there's, in my mind, there's still people, personalities, and all that stuff, just like humans have, the living. They don't like change. You do something in an environment that's changing something, they're going to let you know. I think personality is a big thing. Personality is not always associated to living. I think personality is a disposition of characters of a being in general. So that's my very short-worded answer somewhere.
Well, so they say our haunting's always about spirits. Yes. Not always, but most. Let me just rephrase that. Our haunting's always about spirits. Sometimes, not really. Hauntings could be played out with energy, different things, but mainly spirits, yes. Or can they be echoes of unresolved emotion, trauma, or memory? Now let's separate that for a moment. At least I'm going to. Can they be echoes of unresolved emotion or trauma? Yes, and those most likely are going to be what we call intelligent haunts because they're going to communicate with us. So we have three different types of haunts. You have intelligent, you have residual, and you have imprint. And like I said in the prior podcast, I separate imprinting and residual. Some paranormal investigators want to call it the same. I do not. I will separate it so. And I will express that to anybody and everybody every time. Residual is a replay in time. That would be your memory. It's a memory. It's a replay in time. If everything's aligned up right and everything's going right, then you're going to have a residual haunt. Like say my grandmother walks through the kitchen every morning at 2 a.m. You're going to have a residual. She doesn't pay attention to you. She doesn't look at you. She doesn't communicate. It's just a brief, say 30-second deal. You see her walk through the kitchen and she fades away. But it's only at a certain time of night, and it could be any day or it could be one day. Doesn't matter. Back in the day when I lived in Augusta, Georgia, we had a guy, Civil War, young kid, walking his dog. He'd walk his dog across, I believe it was Georgia Tech, one of the universities or something. Anyway, outside of Augusta, there might have been Augusta College or something. But anyway, it was a school, and we'd go out there around 11:30 at night, and about midnight, we'd go out there a little earlier. You can focus your eyes to the dark and everything because you have to, or you won't see them. You have to focus to the dark and the parking lot lights that are out there, and we always know where to sit to where he comes across is the darkest. And about almost every Friday and Saturday night, I don't know why it's a Friday and Saturday night, but almost every Friday and Saturday night, you could be out there, and right around midnight, you can see this soldier. He's on guard. Basically, I'd take it that's what he's doing. You can see the rifle around his shoulder, and he's walking the dog, and he crosses the parking lot. And it lasts for about 40 seconds. And back then, we had some old video cam. No one ever thought about it. I did, kinda, but you didn't want to tell your people that you're into the paranormal. They want to know how weird you are. But yet, how weird is it to sit out there and watch that? So anyway, that's a residual haunt. That would be a memory. And like I said, echoes, unresolved emotion, trauma, that would be intelligent. Or it could be an imprint. Now, with the unresolved emotion and trauma, you could have a dark energy that's imprinted like a black cloud. If you go to Energy, Chakras, and Orbs podcast, we explain all that. So I'm not going to go into that. I'm just going to say that could be either an intelligent haunt or it could be an imprinting haunt. But yes, it's pretty much always about the paranormal. Let's just say that. The definition of the paranormal, I've said it before, is the unexplained. Anything that's unexplained is paranormal. So it could be about spirits. It could be about just energy in itself. Who knows? Could be a Bigfoot for all we care. But that's my 3 cents on that.
Alrighty. What's question number 5?
Question 5. What role does belief play in paranormal phenomena? Can skepticism block an experience from happening? I'll let you go first.
Alrighty.
But the thing about, I want to say this first. It says, what does belief play in paranormal phenomena? I'm going to assume they're talking about religious belief.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. They weren't too clear about that, but...
All right, read the question again one more time.
It says, what role does belief play in paranormal phenomena? The belief in the paranormal?
Okay.
So me, when you can twist it how you want, I got to play on that. But it says, what role does belief play in paranormal phenomena? Skepticism block an experience from happening.
Okay. Got it. So I'm going to go with both sides here. Being a skeptic, you want valid proof. You want experience. You want to be able to see it firsthand to say, okay, this is real. I think being a skeptic is a very positive and healthy thing to do and be, because you're looking for validation. And there's nothing wrong with that in my mind. I was a skeptic a long time ago because I never had any proof. I never had any experiences. I didn't have anything. So I was on one side of the conversation going, yeah, right. I don't believe it. I don't see it. I don't hear it. I don't feel it. I don't sense it. Nothing. And at that point in time, all I had for baseline of paranormal was TV shows, horror movies, a little bit about theology of spiritual warfare, and that one experience that I had as a child that came to me later in life about seeing the spirits supposedly around my bed. And going off of that, when I heard people say the paranormal this and the paranormal that, it was hard for me to decipher and really get behind because I didn't have anything to equate to it, to understand, to say, okay, I got what you're saying. And I think if you have a belief system, whether it's scientific, whether it's theory, whether it's metaphysical, whether it's spiritual, theology, no matter what belief system it is, that is going to be your principles and grounding blocks to give you logic, to give you understanding of something and anything in life. It doesn't have to be about the paranormal. But with that, I have seen firsthand where when I've done investigations with individuals, they were very behind their thought process and their belief of different theories and ideologies and concepts. And some people walked away after doing an investigation, a leisure investigation, where they're like, yeah, whatever. And then I've met people where they walked away and they're like, holy crap, I thought this is how it was my whole life. And I had these experiences and now I have to reconsider things. I think if somebody does an investigation or puts themselves in a situation to be around where there's known paranormal activity, I don't want to say it's guaranteed it's going to happen to them by their thought process. I think it's already going to be predetermined, personally. And I think when somebody has a belief system, no matter what it's about, I think by projecting the thought process, projecting that energy, that is what is going to also transpire results, good or bad, of whatever is going to happen. Because I go by the philosophy, you may hear people say, oh, put out good vibes. You know, the world needs more good vibes or positive thoughts or, you know, this or that. Well, I wholeheartedly believe when you visualize something, imagine something, you project something, you know, positive vibes, for example, I believe it actually does affect things. And on the other side of the paranormal world, that's a calling card to say, hey, you know, this person over here is putting this out. So it draws attention potentially. That's from a metaphysical slant with energy. It's a known fact everything in the world is comprised of energy in some shape, fashion, or form. Solid, gas, liquid. Even if it's inert and not moving, it's still some form of energy. And that's every life form in this world. That's everything that is man-made potentially on a certain level or naturally made by nature. So I think everything has the potential to impact something else. I know that's a long drawn out answer, but I want to say as a wrap up, yes, if somebody's a skeptic, I think it could limit them potentially, which is completely fine because they're going off of what they know and there's nothing wrong with that. But I also think if somebody does believe in the paranormal, it can be a factor to amplify an experience that may be happening or could happen, because that limiting factor psychologically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, the lock isn't on, it's open. And as you know, Dalton, you've heard before, and I know I've heard it many times, you go into an environment, what do you have to do? You just got to let yourself just be in the moment. Try not to put any blinders on, try not to put any closed doors, just be in the moment and just relax and see what happens. And when that happens, I know for me, you know, probably for you, 9 times out of 10, that's when we experience things. So what about you, Dalton? What's your viewpoint?
Well, first of all,
slant?
we viewpoint slant.
Opinion theory at theoryparanormal.com.
Well, we've done enough of it that we already know how to walk into a place. I mean, we've already seen, felt, and dealt with reality, so we already know it exists. So I'm going to start with the skepticism part. Yes, it can block an experience from happening because what you're doing is you're bringing a form of negativity to the paranormal investigation. And I've talked about this in another podcast that if you're a skeptic, that's fine. And I tell people there's nothing wrong. I'll restate everything we talk about. We're not trying to change your minds on anything, your religion, your beliefs, your skepticism, anything. All we're talking about is what's happened to us and our personal experiences. This and I'm going to tell you like it is again. It's very real. You weren't there. You didn't experience it. So just keep an open mind, whether you believe or not. We're not trying to change you. So in fact, I welcome skeptics to my investigations. I welcome them with open arms. Please come to the investigation, because when you walk out of there, you're not going to be a skeptic no more. I promise you. And if it's a fear factor, like you're scared of something, like, okay, now we're dealing with whatever that I don't even understand. Fine, we'll help you understand it. I've done that with a few people. I had one guy, he walked in trying to be the man, you know, big burly guy, works out, well fit, probably 6'8", 6'7",
I'm six. I'm
270.
I'm 6'3", by the way.
All right, he's a little taller than you. That's why I said 6'7".
Oh, I
6'8".
thought you were talking about me. My bad. Never mind.
No, you never were scared of going to
I'm joking. I'm joking.
So his girlfriend she wasn't bit of 5'3", 5'4", little petite thing, and this dude was huge, big old boy, and he's all like, yeah, so what? She's talking about flashlights going off and this and that, and I said, sir, I said, I don't mind that you're a skeptic, but please, when you walk through the threshold, when you cross the threshold into the building or the house or wherever we're at, just keep an open mind. Can you do that? And he's like, yeah, I can do that. And I said, okay, because if you keep an open mind, you might catch something. You might see something. Something might happen that is going to make you go, And that's going to be the first stage of you not being a skeptic no more, because you're not going to be able to explain what just happened. If the flashlight went off by itself and it's going off at the time that I'm answering, and if it's going off with the color-coded flashlight that we have, red, blue, yellow, whatever, and I tell it to turn that one of those on and it turns the exact one on that I said, okay, well, you explain that. I can't. So he said, okay. So I think we were about 45 minutes into the investigation, and we were standing in a room, and I don't think it was a bedroom, but it used to be or something. I don't know. It had like a dresser and an armoire and something else in there, but no bed. We were standing in the middle of the room, and you know how I like to play games anyway. So we got activity. K2 starting to go off in the middle. We laid a K2. We had a millimeter, and we had some flashlights set up across the room. Well, I put a flashlight. So let's say you have northeast, west, and south, right? So I'm standing west, the guy's standing east, and I put a flashlight sideways, basically north, to where if it moved, it could either go north or south. You understand what I'm saying? So the light's facing west, the back of it's facing east, and the side is facing south, and the other side is north. So
makes sense.
It can roll north and south. Okay. So just to give you a clear picture. So we started getting flashlight communication, and I could see them. When the first flashlight come on was the plain white flashlight. It was sitting by the arm wall. And then I think we had a red one, a blue lens, and a yellow lens. And they were spread out around the room. First one that come on was the plain one. Now that plain one just happened to be pointing at this big old dude standing next. And when that thing come on and hit him in the face, you can see him take a step sideways to his girl. Like he just stepped a little closer. And I said, all right. I'm laughing now because I couldn't really laugh then because I didn't want to embarrass the guy. But so anyway, we kept going. Lights were going off, whatever. And in my mind, I said, please roll that flashlight. Please roll that flashlight. In my mind, I was speaking it to myself. And lo and behold, the white flashlight came back on where you could see him. You could see part of the floor. And then it's like a millisecond after that light come on, that flashlight sitting on the north side, it basically rolled straight down and turned and rolled over in front of him and bumped his boot. Like it literally adjusted angle and rolled into his boot. And in my mind, I'm like, thank you. I owe you guys so much. That dude, by the time I could get out, wow, that just happened. That dude was already gone. He was out of that house or that building we were in. He was out the front door. faster than I can get out. That just happened. So, needless to say, he left the girlfriend in there. He sat in the car the rest of the night. Y'all can have that. And I said, "Are you a skeptic, sir, anymore?" He said, "I don't know. I have to process this." So, but the question is skepticism. Yes, it can bring a negativity to the investigation that can block things from happening. Now, the reason I brought this dude up is because he kept an open mind, which kept the channel open, and stuff still happened. And he was able to experience that, just like you mentioned about keeping an open mind, so tough stuff will happen.
Yep.
Now, real quick, what role does belief play? I was stupid because I'm kind of tired. I drive thousands of miles a week. I realize they're talking about the belief in the paranormal. What role does it play? It plays a very significant role. It doesn't necessarily have to be a belief. Just keep an open mind is all I ask. You can believe it. It can be a belief, but to me, it necessarily doesn't need to be a belief. It can be, you just can't explain it.
I think I was going to say, I think, with the belief system, it's all about intent. It's all about putting the energy into a thought or the belief, like you're saying. And by doing that, you're creating the potential for it to happen. And I don't have to say this could be equated to just about the paranormal, but it could be for anything. I know you've heard the sentiment of if you visualize it or positive thoughts, it'll happen. And people are like, "Oh wow, I did this and this happened. It was so weird." But the reality is, I believe in that because I think that itself is putting energy out there in the cosmos, the universe, the Earth, the astral planes, wherever you want to identify it as. And I think it could potentially affect things, even on the paranormal level.
Well, it depends on how strong the belief is. I mean, you can use belief in many ways. I mean, you can use the belief in the fact, like we believe. We believe in the paranormal. We believe in anything paranormal because we've had all the experiences. We've dealt with it most all our lives. We can say we believe in it. We believe in it. So when we walk into a place, we're automatically open minded to whatever may happen, whether it be biblical, whether it be just an evil dude or a woman or whoever that was just evil when they were alive, or whether it's just the presence of a normal spirit that just wants to communicate and tell us about their life and maybe how something happened, or like certain places we investigate. We have an actual investigation. What happened here? And we get answers. Somebody was shot, somebody was stabbed, or somebody had a heart attack, or somebody died in a piece of machinery or something, because they don't understand why it's haunted. But that belief system that we have automatically opens us up to that. So the way that I'm putting it out there is I'm not forcing people to believe in the paranormal. I'm saying if you believe it, awesome. And your mind just opened up a little bit more. And the more you believe, the more you experience, I believe your mind opens up that much further. But if you just want to say, I got the kind of belief that I just don't understand what just happened, that's fine too. So you can take belief to me in multiple ways, but it does play a huge role in the phenomena, whether or not paranormal stuff will happen, because like I said, skepticism, when you bring a skeptic in, they automatically bring negativity. And they're already coming in closed minded saying, this is just fooey. It's visual things in the night that make your eyes are seeing things and blah, blah, blah. Well, I can't undo the fact that I just seen that flashlight come on by itself. Now you can debunk the flashlight. Said that before. Flashlight can heat up the sensory and it can start going off and playing games by itself. And we know when it does that because it's just random. It's not doing what we want it, what we're asking the entity to do. That means it's time to shut that thing down and park it and let it cool off. When you got a chair that starts rocking out of nowhere, you got a dish that drops on the floor, you got a teacup that elevates 4 inches off the kitchen table, or you got cabinet doors that open and shut by themselves, or even a door itself, or the sink turns on by itself, or anything like poltergeist activity or anything like that, guess what? Explain that to me. You
Yep.
can.
Yep.
That's all I got to say.
Nice. So what do we got for question number 6 now?
I believe it's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, 6. How do cultural archetypes, I guess I want archetypes, or ARCHETIPES, TYPES,
Yep. Archetypes.
archetypes,
Yep.
like shadow figures, witches, or cryptids, shape what we perceive as paranormal?
You want to go first?
Well, shadow figures, witches, and cryptids, that's all paranormal. You can't explain it. A witch, you can explain. I mean, that's obviously, you can explain. They have some kind of magical power, let's say. Let's just throw that out there or whatever. But I'm going to say witches don't always mean the ones that are riding broomsticks with pointy hats.
No.
A witch could be a voodoo witch. They can deal with voodoo. They can be a voodoo witch. Could be a woman or a male. They got male witches too.
Yeah, they're called warlocks.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I just think like all of that, shadow figures, witches, cryptids, cryptics, Bigfoot, aliens. Let's see, how does it shape what we perceive as paranormal? Well, the word paranormal is what shapes all of that. Because like I said, if it's unexplained, it's paranormal. So that's about the quickest answer I got for that is how does it shape what we perceive as paranormal? Well, it is paranormal, so it shapes everything that we perceive. That makes sense.
So, just for a reminder for everybody, paranormal events are purported phenomena described in popular cultural, folklore, and other non-scientific bodies of knowledge, whose existence within these contexts is described as being beyond the scope of normal scientific understanding. Notable paranormal beliefs include those that pertain to the extrasensory perceptions and the pseudoscience of ghost hunting, cryptology, and ufology. So, you brought up cryptids, you brought up shadow figures and witches, right?
That's what they asked you.
Okay. Cryptids are something that is in the environment, which is a folklore, basically, that has been brought up through society, of different societies throughout history, and they all have different explanations, different reasonings for it, but they're folklore. I said it like you usually say it. Folklore. See?
Yeah, you bought my video.
At least you didn't say sporklore.
Spork. I should say that one time. Sporks.
Right. So, but with the cryptids and the shadow people, all of that is going to be based upon urban legends, folklore through different societies throughout history and belief systems. Okay. Now, witches is a little bit more real. Witches, you think of a broomstick, you think of hocus pocus and magic. Well, there's actually true foundation of this because back in the day, before organized religion, I don't like usually getting in theology, but this is all true. Before organized religion, there was a lot of, you could say, wicked magic, white magic, black magic, red magic, natural magic per se. Magic meaning the belief system of using herbs, natural remedies, crystals, candles, runes. I could go on, but all throughout history, you had these individuals, warlocks per se, or witches, all practice these things. Now, keep in mind, these individuals, depending on where you were also the local doctor. They were the person that helped out everybody if they were sick. They had the belief systems, depending on what time of era you're talking about. You're talking about gods and goddesses and, different things. But my point that I'm getting at is that the paranormal aspect of witches, 9 times out of 10, if you think about it, identifies with Halloween. You're thinking, a witch and dressed up and doing all sorts of, spooky stuff. That's courtesy of selling candy and the wonderful industry of making money. Or you think of Wizard of Oz, or you think of anything that has to do with Halloween. But honestly, all of it goes back to these individuals that did a lot of things for society back in the day until it transcended to more modern naming of things. Now, are there people that still believe in different deities and archetypes of gods and goddesses through different religions or belief systems? 120%. Do they still practice doing different things with runes or crystals or candles or minerals or, you know, it yes. Now, for the individual that doesn't understand the history of everything about witches, I can 100% see why somebody would associate it to the paranormal because it's something that's not understandable. I myself just have some education on some things that have to do with this, so that's why I was able to say everything I said. It's all out there. But with those three categories, society itself decides its impression of how it associates to the paranormal. With more technology now, with being able to understand history, with being able to really break things down and understand how it influences society and affected society, I think it gives everybody a good understanding of what the purpose was and where it's going from that point forward. So,
Well, and you can also go back to they weren't they might have been called witches back in the day when they were actually like a herbal, like what you call a herbalist.
yeah, a herbalist. I mean, they had multitudes of names depending on the society that you're talking about, the time or era of history and time. I mean, there's tons of different references to it. Now, with
Well,
that,
they and you had but you did have the ones that knew about spells.
well,
That
right,
could take
right, and
that could
that,
take herbal substance and make it a healing product.
right, and the spells could be a variety of things, good and bad. It could be with intent, with energy. It could be candle, magic. I mean, crystal, just all sorts of things.
Well, like
So,
the Wiccans use the crystals and the broom to sweep out the negativity and et cetera, et cetera. But when you were I just brought it up because you were talking about like, you know, back in the day, let's say back in, before the Knights, or whatever. And you got people that understood certain plants and herbs and they could put stuff together to like
yep.
heal a cut or keep infection from growing, like wet moss or seaweed or whatever. And or they would make a remedy that would help somebody get over a simple cold or a cough. And some people for a long time it wasn't called alchemy because alchemy deals with metals and stuff like that. But there was
Well,
another like al.
that's part of it too, though. I mean, all of that alchemy,
Oh, okay.
especially. I mean,
Oh, okay. So I was hitting the right
yeah,
area. So
yeah.
I mean, shadow figures. We have an episode on shadow figures and what those might be. But yeah, it's and I mean you kind of went into the paranormal definition, which is cool about that.
Oh well, thank you.
Witches
That was
are
very nice
more
of you
of
to say.
you're welcome. I threw you some flowers right there. Anything else you'd like to mention about what will it shape what we perceive as the paranormal? Like I said, I think everything about that shapes what we perceive about the paranormal.
Yeah, I think ideology and understanding of things, a definition, will give perspective on what someone's viewpoint is. Uh, so yeah.
I mean, we talked about it. You can go back as far as Benjamin Franklin, Tesla, Albert Einstein. A lot of those folks back then in those days, they were dabbling with the paranormal. We mentioned that too. So people have been for centuries, from since way back when, somewhere had a paranormal experience, or they encountered a witch, or a cryptid, or a cryptic, or shadow figure, or something that enticed them to try to get in touch with the other side. scientists, especially scientists today, to me, kind of rebuke like they kind of go against paranormal, want to try to throw more of a scientific idea behind it, but even their scientific idea, you still can't explain it, so it's still paranormal to me. So, but all right, next question. Let's go on. All right, man, I told you they wrote a novel, dude. I'm not kidding. Can rituals or sigils invite paranormal contact or protect against it? What's the most effective method that you've seen? Silence.
I'm going to let you go first, sir.
That's okay. Rituals and sigils, can they invite paranormal contact? I believe they can. Depends on what kind of rituals you're performing. If you're performing seances or anything like that, pretty much. Yeah, and the problem with that is you really like a Ouija board. Don't play with a Ouija board unless you're a professional, like an actual investigator, and that knows how to close the door, because that $5 toy you just bought at Bed Bath and Beyond or wherever they might sell one, because I've seen them at Bed Bath and Beyond. You know, just understand that you can possibly, say, accidentally open a door and you never know what's coming through. At least when you go to a place to investigate, you almost dealing with the same thing. You don't really know what you're dealing with, but you got kind of an idea, which is better than opening up a door you don't know what's coming through. So yes, any rituals or sigils can invite paranormal contact, and they can protect against contact. I'm just going to throw it simply. A lot of people pray before they walk into a haunted investigation. To me, I don't know if that really works. You don't know what you're dealing with. You don't know the background of the entity you're dealing with. And in my opinion, again, my opinion, from my experience, you can be religious, but when you walk in there, if that religion has nothing to do with that entity, it's going to do what it wants. Just point blank. That's why I suggest all the time, you just don't try to open yourself up to it, and you don't try to tell it to touch you or use your energy or anything. You keep yourself shut down as far as that's concerned. Keep your mind open for the actual activity, but keep your actual energy shut down. Do not invite it to do anything. And that's, to me, the best way to protect yourself. Sigils will be more like what? Rocks or signs or some kind of thing you carry with you. Sometimes, yes, those items might protect you. A lot of times they probably won't. I'm just going to say it that way because it's just the easy way to put that out there. You can have a symbol. There's all kinds of different symbols of sigils, whatever you want to call them. They're supposed to have magical power. If they do or not, I don't know. I'll be honest with you, I don't know. The significance of one is basically a symbol used in magic. It usually refers to a pictorial signature of a spirit, such as an angel, demon, or deity, whatever, deity.
Deity.
In modern use, yes, deity. Okay. Well, I just went through all the languages, so just calm down. In modern usage, especially in context of chaos magic, a sigil refers to a symbolic representation of the practitioner's desired outcome. Okay, so all those things, I mean, yes, all those things can invite or protect. Now, you have to have a really deep belief for any of that stuff to protect you. I think that's just how it's going to work. What's the most effective method that I've seen? None. That's my honest opinion. I have not seen anything that, if it comes to crystals or stones or some kind of symbol or even the prayer of light, I tell people, if it makes you feel good and you believe and strongly that that will protect you, then more power to you. I'm not trying to knock you. But people always ask me, what do you carry or what do you do before an investigation? And Pax, you can tell them the same thing I will. I don't do anything. I just walk through the door and go at it. It's done. Like, whatever you're going to do, let's get it on. That kind of thing. I don't have nothing because I don't know what I'm dealing with. So I'm going to say that's pretty much my explanation. And have I seen anything work? No, because I don't use anything. And like I said, I've seen a lot of people do different things, and they still. And let me point this out. So, like the girl I talked about walking through the St. Albans Sanitarium, she prayed for the light before she went into this building, and she got slapped in the head for saying something sarcastic. So obviously that didn't protect her. Me, I walked in there with nothing. I didn't pray. I didn't ask for the light. I didn't carry any symbols. I didn't carry anything at all or ask or pray for anything. And I never got hurt, scratched, touched. I had a lot of activity, got photos of a lot of spirits, a lot of EVPs, but nothing bothered me. I'm going to say this. Most investigations I go to, most of the people that pray or do whatever they're going to do, they're usually the ones that get scratched, pushed, punched, slapped in the head. You name it, they've been touched. I, on the other hand, have not. And that's a true statement. So you can take that right there how you want it. But I think if you pray or you do something, I think that you're just inviting contact without knowing it, because they're going to show you that it doesn't bother them, that it does not work, that this will not work for you. I can still touch you if I want to, kind of thing. Kind of like people that are heavy religious. And I tell you that possessions, the few possessions, they're very rare, but the few demonic possessions that have actually happened are by people that are highly religious. And I think that they were taken over because that's a slap in their Lord's face, saying, and I'm not saying that in a mean way, just understand what I'm saying, that they're saying that, ha, 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 no matter how much faith these people have, no matter how much you instill your faith and your religion and your belief system in this person, I could still take them. I could still touch them. So when you deal with demonic possessions or you research demonic possessions, take all that in. Don't just look at the possession and think, oh, it's cool. This chick, she's spinning upside down on the ceiling, breakdancing or whatever, and she's spinning her head around and she's speaking 60 different languages at one time. Don't look at that. Look at the actual part of the possession, that this person was very religious. If she was that religious, how'd this demon take her over? So I know I probably went way the heck out into middle field with this, but I'm just saying, don't always go into place, think that's going to protect you. I guarantee you, you'll be the one scratched or punched or hit or tripped up, and you're going to realize that what you just did had no bearing, because, like I said, you don't know what you're dealing with. And when you think you know what you're dealing with, guess what? You still don't know what you're dealing with. So, anyway, Sir Pax, your turn.
So, can rituals or sigils invite paranormal contact or protect against it? I would say yes. But I believe it's about the energy that you put into it when you do it, your belief system. And yeah, that's my spin on it. I look at logic. This type of thought process has been around for thousands upon thousands of years. This isn't something that just came around or somebody said, this looks cool. You look at history, you look at the Vikings, you look at the Norse, you look at the Greek, you can look at tons of different civilizations. They all had a form of imbuing energy and power within runes or sigils to do a variety of things. Does it go with a ideology and thought process, a belief system? Yeah. But I can't speak to something that I cannot say no to, and I can't fully say yes to, but erring on the side of yes. Why? Because in my brain, if it's invalid or something that wasn't for individuals, then all of this information would have fizzled out a long time ago. It still would not be in the history books. It still not would have lasted for thousands of years. What's the most effective method that I've seen? The most I would say commonly used is runes or sigils because it's not just one society. It's not one particular part of the world. It's around the world. It's in all cultures, race, creeds, colors. So when you have other cultures that don't know each other, but yet they have the same symbology, the same ideology or thought process on something, there has to be something more to it. So do I think, can it invite paranormal contact? I think the will and intent to want having contact itself can invite it. Now, do you want to look up different things in books where people will attest to, oh, if you write this sigil, this means money or power or love or, laws of attraction or opening up your third eye or, having a higher frequency rate with the astral plane and communicating with the other side and all this? Sure. I think it's feasible, but that's just me and my personality. I always like to believe, why not? As far as it goes. So, what's the next question you got there, Dalton?
You want to do that? They got like 8 more questions. You want to make a part 2 out of this? Because we've been on here quite a bit.
We can knock them out quick, but we're going to give shorter answers.
Good luck with that.
All right, what's the next question?
All right. Well, sir, people, we hope you listen to this in different segments and not just quit listening to it because it is going to be a little long. So hopefully you're enjoying it as we're going. So what's your take on liminal spaces, thresholds, crossroads, mirrors as portals or energetic hotspots? I'll let you go first.
I think, honestly, anywhere where there's any space anywhere in the world, it could be any of those. I don't think it necessarily has to be a mirror, portals, hotspots, all that stuff. I think all that's going to be contributed potentially to ley lines across the earth. I think it's going to be contributed to ions in the environment, electricity. It'll be contributed to natural things in the environment, forest, woods, streams, rivers, anything that can modify or change the environment for energy. I think all of that's very real. I know for a fact I have done investigations where I've went to people's houses and things were discovered of there being a portal or energy or things in the environment that had no reason to be there that affected the household members detrimentally, unfortunately. And I think a lot of it just has to do with things that we can't see, at least with our senses. So from my experience, I think it's a very real possibility.
Well, you got thresholds. We can go vampiric. Vampires can't cross threshold without you inviting them in. I think I could go through each one. Maybe in a later date I will. I'm going to pick crossroads. In folklore, crossroads are viewed as a liminal space or places between worlds where the veil between the living and the dead is thin, making them prime locations for paranormal activities such as encounters with supernatural spirits, demons, ghosts, and other worldly beings. Cultures worldwide feature crossroads in myths as associating them with the deities of travel and commerce, and often portraying them as sites where one might find good or ill fortune, or even make a fateful decision with supernatural implications. Now, when you talk about that, you're talking about the old blues song. I'm a huge blues fan, and they all went to the crossroads and made a deal with the devil, right?
Yep.
So
it's a song for anybody that doesn't know that.
It is, but the old saying about that a lot of blues folks believed in the crossroads that if you wanted to be a famous blues guitarist or a harmonican, play the harmonica, you go to the crossroads, you make a deal with the devil, and you'll be like, you didn't have to know how to play a lick on a guitar or play a lick on a harmonica. By the time you leave the crossroads, you're the best.
A lick meaning you don't know how to use the instrument at all.
Right. So the liminality, crossroads are literally a symbolic betwixt and between places where two realities meet and boundaries blur. The thinning of the veil is believed to thin the veil between the mortal and supernatural realms, allowing spirits to cross over. As a result, crossroads become meeting points for humans and supernatural. Just like I said, they always said you can go down and meet the devil or the devil's assistant and make a deal. From benevolent deities to benevolent demons and spirits. A crossroad represents a literal or symbolic choice, a point where a path must be taken, leading to a new direction in life or fate. So, a lot of times they go into the examples of folklore, the demonic deals. In some legends, crossroads were individuals who might encounter the devil, potentially leading the pack for a power or fame. That's why I was saying about a lot of the people in the blues always sang about crossroads and making a deal with the devil, basically. Supernatural beings, as far as ghosts, spirits, and other spirits, are said to appear at the crossroads. Guardian deities. Some cultures have specific deities like the Yoruba deity, Ishu, or the Haitian voodoo Iwa Papa Legba. That was a mouthful. Who preside over the crossroads. So obviously these guardians, the Yoruba deity, the Ishu, or the Haitian voodoo Iwa Papa Legba, which I've heard of Legba. They don't spend. So when you go to New Orleans and stuff, they don't talk about the Haitian voodoo Iwa Papa Legba. They just might say Legba. Legba's been here or something like that. You'll hear that. And I've heard it. And they preside over the crossroads. They're basically the guardians. So crossroads, I'm guessing roads that cross each other. That's probably why you don't see a lot of them that are built. I do see a lot of roundabouts. Don't know if that's the same thing, but crossroads, hard to notice. Even me traveling across the country, how I can probably count on within both hands and no further than that. I can probably count how many crossroads I've ever actually come across. Even cutting through the woods, going through small towns and stuff like that. You have, of course, your four-way stop, which might be considered a crossroad, right? But don't think a four-way stop is actually, it could be, because that's what a crossroad is, right? Two roads crossing each other.
Yep.
So I guess every four-way stop we come to, it's a crossroad. And I guess there's a lot, now that I think of it, there's probably a lot more than I can imagine. But I'm talking about like an old dirt road, crossroad out in the middle of nowhere, no stop signs, to where you don't have to stop, like you're literally just driving through. So I'd have to go into that a little further about the crossroads. Always been interested in the crossroads because of my love for blues music. So I'd have to go deeper into that to see exactly what kind of actual crossroad are they talking about. They say the theme of crossroads in the supernatural is popular. It's a battle between good and evil. See, we're getting into things that I just got to go deeper, and I'm not going to do that right now.
All right.
So thresholds, like I said, mirrors. It's been well known in the paranormal world that if you put two mirrors facing each other, that they sometimes, not all the time, I'm not going to say all the time, but sometimes will open a portal. Now, there's been a few videos on YouTube and across the internet, like, for instance, the chick that had two mirrors facing each other, she opened a portal and seen like a warehouse, looked like a grocery store warehouse or something. And it was said that her video camera, I guess, reappeared in her room. That's how they got the footage. But she actually went inside the mirror, dropped down into like this big open warehouse, and then was never found again. Like she was never to be seen again. But I guess her camera showed back up, and you can actually see the footage of this chick doing all this. And you can tell it's dated. Like you can tell it's back in the probably mid to late 80s, early 90s maybe. You can tell it's dated. But very interesting to watch. And then you have the one guy, he does it. He puts up two mirrors facing each other, and it opens up a semi-portal. And all he does is film it. Like he don't try to put his arm in it. or nothing. He just films it happening. And then there was another one where a guy did it, and the portal started. He had them facing like one on the bed, one in the chair, and the portal started opening up in the middle of his bed. You could see like this spiral of light starting to spin. And it wasn't actually opening up in the other mirror like the other two were. This one was actually creating one in between them.
Hmm.
And he was filming it. So real or not, I don't know. You can research those videos. So they are energetic hotspots for sure. So the next one, you have something else you want to say?
Next question.
Okay. Is there a difference between summoning and communing? What ethics should guide magical contact with spirits?
Yes, there is a difference. And there is ethics, at least in my opinion.
Shoot.
Well, basically, summoning is calling, in my opinion, a spirit, entity, or being for a specific purpose or task. It's like you're like saying, hey, I need you over here, and here's why. Communing, on the other hand, from the way I look at it, involves establishing more of a dialogue or a connection with a spirit or entity where you're trying to understand something or you're trying to get guidance. So there's going to be passing information back and forth. And as far as ethics goes, yeah, I think at least in my opinion, I believe anything you do, you want to have willful intent that's positive. You don't want to do it maliciously. You don't want to do it out of spite or malice. You don't want to do it on an emotional, fragile state of yourself, psychologically, emotionally, or mentally. Because all of these things come into play when you're trying to do something like this. You need to be calm, cool, collected, and you have to do things for the right reason. I believe in karma, and I believe if you do something that's wrong, or you don't do it in the right mannerism, it's going to come back to get you or come back and hurt other individuals. Rather, you meant to have that happen or not, collateral damage, I believe it happens. And ultimately, even before you even get into any of this stuff, research, study, find someone that can teach you to help you if this is what you're into or what you already do. Just be safe, be careful. Because all of this has real world consequences that can change lives. So that's my opinion.
Well, in magical or spiritual practice, ethical guidelines for contacting non-human intelligence draw on principles of informed consent, maleficence or whatever, respect, and responsibility. Maleficence,
Maleficent.
whatever it is. It's more than my redneck can take. These principles aim to protect both the practitioner and the entity and ensure the interaction is safe, honest, and mutual respect. Now, the key to the ethical principles would be consent and respect for free will. Do not force contact. We've already said that. We said practitioners should not compel a spirit or magical being to communicate against its will. Number one, that's respect for the entity. This includes using methods that override or manipulate an entity's free will, because most entities that you're dealing with were humans at one time. You're dealing with their energy, and this is where a lot of people will say, please respect the dead, respect the energy, respect the entity. Do not provoke or, be angry, because basically they do have feelings. They can get mad, and when they get mad, there's some things you just don't want to know. Avoid manipulative spells, especially in tradition like Wicca, love spells, or any magic that seeks to control another being's emotions or considered a violation of their free will. Again, free will, and are ethically frowned upon. Now, we did an investigation, me and Pax, a long time ago with another group. We went to the house. We did their hotel first. Now I'm pretty sure it's ringing a bell for you. And then the owner, the one owner, the wife actually, she actually wanted us to do their personal home. And we found we couldn't figure stuff out at first. There was a lot of weird stuff going on even and I'm not even patting myself on the back, but it's a true fact. Pax will tell you, even the spirits flirting with me in certain ways that were kind of just like uncomfortable. We were in the bedroom, and the spirit was saying stuff through the spirit box that kind of was like inappropriate, and we couldn't figure this stuff out. Long story short, we found out there was a voodoo doll that this woman down the street put this voodoo doll in their house. She used to be the maid or whatever. She used to clean the house. And she put the voodoo doll in the bedroom behind the husband's part of the bed, I believe it was. Was it?
Yep.
Was behind his side?
Yep.
And what this voodoo doll was, it was to attract him towards her. She wanted him. The maid wanted him. And instead of like a natural, you couldn't really, they were married because the guy was married. So she couldn't like just walk up and go, hey, you want to go have dinner? You want to have a drink? You want to, no, but she used a voodoo doll to actually attract the guy. And it was all through the voodoo doll and spells that this guy wound up falling for her and leaving his wife, who we investigated the house, and we found the voodoo doll. But by then it was already too late. The dude had already fell in love with the maid and left with her. Now I don't know why, because she didn't have money, but they lived in a nice house, had a huge hotel. Anyway, so we have witnessed that. Now that could have been voodoo. I say a voodoo doll, but it could have been Wicca. Could have been a Wiccan deal, love spell with just using an actual doll, like what they call them. Sometimes the voodoo people are using, like, you can put a pin in the shoulder, and all of a sudden that person will start having shoulder pain. You know what I'm saying? That kind of doll. So they say establish boundaries before communication. Practitioners should set clear boundaries and intentions. This includes defining what subjects are off limits and specifying that the contact can end at any time. Do no harm. Basically, don't do any harm. Ensure clear intentions. Protect yourself and close the session properly. Now, that would be when you're communicating. It is crucial to formally and politely close the session. This prevents unwanted residual energy or lingering contact with the entity. Now, that I'm going to say is, if you're doing a seance or you're playing with a Ouija board, make sure you close the door. As far as an open investigation, the best thing you can do is do what we do, and we walk out thinking to ourselves or speaking loudly, please remain here, do not follow us, blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah.
So there's
blah.
some example, blah, blah, blah. So there's some examples of the ethics.
So what's the next question you got?
What's your favorite lesser known cryptid or mythic creature, and what do you think it represents symbolically?
Well, one comes to mind right off the bat for me. It is going to be the Mokili Mimbibi, and it's actually pretty cool in my book. Basically, it's a living dinosaur, and it's supposedly over in the Congo River Basin, and it's been accounted and throughout history, and people have kind of seen it here and there, and it basically resembles a small sauropod with a long neck, long tail, body about between 15 and 30 feet in length. And, I thought about this long and hard when I initially heard about this a while ago. And I'm thinking to myself, there's so much of the earth that's still unexplored or uninhabited or really looked into that it wouldn't surprise me if there's still some creatures or animals that we've yet to discover that could be from the dinosaur period. I mean, yeah, they said everything supposedly passed away and so forth, but it wouldn't surprise me if there's something somewhere that lived in a cave in a certain biome or something that made it. So I think it's pretty cool to think about this. What about you?
Me, I'm going to go, mythic creature, cryptic. A lot of people know I'm a vampire. Like, I'm a huge vampire fan. I don't ask me why. I guess it's I don't know. It's when you see now you see the ugly ones, the ones that are not very, like, they turn into a monster. Not, I don't like that one. I like the one where they still keep kind of their human form, but the fangs come out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do I intentionally want to drink blood or anything like that? Not really. But the symbolic part of a vampire is a wide range of concepts, including the darkness of human nature, forbidden desires, basically societal deviance, cultural anxieties, exploitation, and I don't know, parasitic relationships, and the allure of eternal life and power. Now, you take away the darkness, forbidden desires probably, but basically internal life and power would be pretty cool. Don't know how cool, but it would be. Historically, vampires were seen as a way to explain death and disease, as well as to embody fears about the unknown. While in literature, they basically have evolved to represent anything from themes of addiction and abuse to critiques of social basically heretics or whatever.
Of course, that'd be
But
cool, by the way, because you'd be cold-blooded. Get it?
yes,
Being a vampire? Cold-blooded?
don't know.
Because you're not alive.
I,
You're dead. Never mind.
I do, like what's weird, man, is I'll meet a woman in a bar or something like that, and I'll just automatically go, "Wow, you got a beautiful neckline," and they just look at you like, "Where did that come from?" It's my vampiric side. I don't know. You just have a great neckline. I don't know.
You
why
heard
that
it
just came
first
out.
here, people, on Theory of Paranormal. There is your intro pickup line if you were ever looking for a new one to use.
No, I'm not trying to say it's a pickup line. I'll just happen to tell a good looking woman like, wow, you got a very good looking neckline. You got a desirable neckline. And they just look at you like, and some women actually, believe it or not, dude, some women go, I'm glad somebody recognized my neckline.
Desirable
Like
neckline.
you have a desirable neckline. Like it's
I don't think I've ever done that before where I've looked at some go, that's a desirable neckline. I've looked at the value meal menu at a restaurant and said I desire number 4 because I'm hungry, but
you got a great
I desire that apple pie and and the super size. I desire
well, I'm just
that.
saying, like they got a good looking neckline. Like they got it, I can't explain it, dude. I
No,
don't know why I say that.
no, I know what you mean. You're just talking about the overall physique and the way that they present themselves and stuff. I got it. So
Right, because what's been played out, like, oh, you got great eyes. Oh, okay. So you hit them with you got a great looking neckline or a desirable neckline, and that's different. They're just like it floors them. They're just like, what? What? Well, and then like I said, a lot of women will look at me and go, well, and they're serious. Like, I'm glad somebody noticed my neckline. Like I do have a great neckline. I'm like, yes, you do.
Well,
So anyway,
I can honestly say I never fathomed that this would be a talking point in this podcast today. But okay.
well, I told you I have a vampiric side. That's why I'm infatuated with vampires. I guess I do. I love the history and the story. Now, do I like the killing and the drinking of blood and the no? But I like to imagine like the power, the strength that they have, the things that they can do, like climb walls or you know make people say think things like you can tell them things through their mind and then make their mind realize that they can forget.
Telepathy. Got it.
Yes.
So what's
Got it.
what's the next question you got?
All right. Do you believe in interdimensional beings or fae like entities that don't fit the ghost demon binary?
Yes, very easily. There's so much of the world that we don't know. I could very easily see there being things in nature, especially of the fae sort, that we may not be able to see with our wonderful eyes because we don't have that frequency to. I mean, come on. Right now, within the history of the world, especially in the United States, it's all about all these UFOs and UAPs and all this stuff and how it's bending light and things are happening and you can't see stuff. Who's to say that there's not stuff hidden in other parts of the world and nature that are living amongst animals or different places? So I do believe potentially there could be fae-like entities. Do I believe in interdimensional beings? Yeah. I think there's so much in this world that we have no clue about that's just right in front of our face, but we lack the ability to understand or the technology. And I mean, think about it. The world is populated by how much water compared to landmass, and yet we've only explored so much. I mean, there's bound to be stuff around that we're not clued in on yet. So, what about you, Mr. Dalton?
Well, I say, excuse me, I say that yes, interdimensional beings. Yes, I've talked about aliens. I believe in them. We talked about mermaids. I thought for sure you would, like in the last question, you were going to pop up with a mermaid. We talked about those. I believe there's interdimensional beings that walk among us. I mean, that sounds like weird stuff, straight jacket kind of stuff, but we're in the paranormal field and we're talking weird stuff already. So I do believe that they walk among us. I do believe some that you can't see. I do have some photos exactly at a couple at May Stringer House that I have caught like an alien type figure, like shadowed out, like it's if you take it and you black out, but you see like the outline of like it's kind of invisible, it's kind of not, and it's actually manifesting a ghost. Looks like. Also, I've seen the alien type style heads at the Watsika Wonder, the Roth home that we did in Illinois. I have a few pictures of a couple of alien looking beings in the windows next to other spiritual forms that are sitting in the windows as well. And they're not reflections because at that time the guy was renovating and some of the windows were open. So it was kind of hard to get do a reflection. But Fey like entities, yes, I do believe in Fey entities, especially like fairies. And now the thing is, some of these fairies are not the Tinkerbell type fairies. Some of them are malicious and malevolent. Like they will do nasty things to you. They will bite you. They will harm you. They will put some kind of little trickery spell on you. I do believe that. In fact, there was a deal the other day I seen on a reel of some paranormal investigators overseas where they went to an area of an island and they were filming this tree that claims to be where fays and fairies and stuff like that live. And if you hear it on the camera, you hear like little chirps and voices amongst the tree. And then when he walks away from the tree, you don't really hear it. But when you get closer to the tree, there's little weird sounds and stuff that don't sound like birds. And you don't see any birds. There's not really nothing you can see in those. And the trees are short. They're almost like a bush, but it's like a miniature tree. But anyway, try to look that up if you want.
Okay.
But yes, I do believe in interdimensional. I do believe in phase, and they don't have to fit the ghost and demon binary. No, because ghost and demon binary, the ghost and demon thing to me is a separate deal from interdimensional and fey. If you want to go fey and mythic like mermaids, stuff like that.
Okay. All right.
So next question.
How many questions we got left?
Oh Lord. 1, 2, 3, 4 questions.
All right. We'll go for the lightning power round here. What you got? Because I know we're at the 2 hour mark. So if anybody's still with us, we appreciate it. If not,
Either that or we can finish this and divide it in 2 parts. And
oh no, we'll get these done quick. But you got to limit your answers to 1 minute. There you go. We got to give people the light at the end of the tunnel here. That way they know that they're at the home stretch. So what's the next question?
Excuse me. If you could design your own paranormal entity, what would it look like and what would its purpose be? I'll just go first. I will not do that.
Yeah.
You're next.
I couldn't either because I can't fathom that. There's too many things in the world that we can't understand and comprehend. And I couldn't imagine designing or coming up with something to serve a purpose. Yeah. I know it's kind of a vague answer, but it's just I've never thought about that. So
Well, here's a good question. Okay, design your own paranormal entity and what would it look like and its purpose. You want to know what that looks like? Go look up the story we talked about called Conjuring Philip.
okay.
You remember that?
Yep. So what's
So
I was gonna say, what's the next question you got?
Well, real quick, Conjuring.
I felt a story coming on. That's why I was saying next question.
No, I mean, I'm just going to say Conjuring Philip is where the Canadian, Paranormal Society or what up there, they created a ghost and it didn't go well. So go research that if you want to know why I say no. I would not design.
Yep, we talked about it in a
paranormal.
previous podcast. So
Next question. Do you think paranormal phenomena point to a larger truth about consciousness or the soul?
yes. I think that the paranormal phenomena barely scratches the surface of what we understand on the metaphysical side of the different levels of the astral planes, dimensions, because we got it figured out supposedly for the living side, the physical, but we don't understand the fourth dimension. Everything is our own baseline of understanding via science. And until we understand more about what's going on the other side, we'll never advance. So I think the paranormal side is associated to the soul per se. And I think a lot of it has to do with energy. And I think the consciousness collectively can be associated to your soul or body also, but I also think it can also potentially tap into something on a higher level. And what I'm referring to is the Akashic records. For anybody that's curious, look it up, read it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. What do you think there, Dalton?
Well, you can go to the Book of Enoch. You can go back to when the giants. You can go to wherever you want. But let's just say, and this is not an attack against any kind of religion. But what if God was using us like test people, like to see how much we can do, and then his brother, who happens to be Lucifer, gives us an apple, which opens up our mind to more knowledge and whatnot, right? So does the paranormal phenomena point to a larger truth about consciousness or the soul? I think the consciousness and the soul will open up to more paranormal. Does that make sense?
Well, it does.
I think that if you can understand, which you never will, because the consciousness, and first of all, a part of your consciousness, your subconscious, I believe, is the hardest part of your conscious to control. And then you have your soul, which is energy. What kind of energy? Nobody knows. Nobody knows how that was created. But what if Lucifer gave the apple to Eve and said, "Hey, you guys have more potential. This will open up your potential." What if that was the part of us opening up our minds, and it actually wasn't a bad thing, it was a good thing? But then everybody called God's brother Lucifer, which also God's name also means Lucifer in a way. But he became the Lucifer we know now, and he's a bad guy, and he's and everybody's going to say, "See, that's the devil talking to you," and blah blah blah. No, I'm just saying, if what was the apple's purpose? It was supposed to be bad, right? The snake gave the apple or whatever to Eve. I never read the Bible, but I'm just going by what I've heard. And what if that apple was an apple of knowledge? And it opened up our consciousness and our soul to different things of free will and free thinking. So, but just to throw that out there, because it's some stuff that I researched in the Book of Enoch and the tablets and all that stuff. It's kind of painting another picture. Not going to get into that, but I'll just say it like I said it. If you can research and understand the consciousness and your soul, I think that will open up the larger truth on paranormal phenomena. Do I think paranormal phenomena will open up the conscious and the soul? To a point, but you're going to have to separate the two and actually figure out your conscious mind and the soul. I don't have yet, all the years that we have done paranormal investigations, I don't think that we have come close to a larger truth about the consciousness and the soul. Have you?
No, not at all. We haven't.
Right. It's like going into the ocean. It's so vast. There's parts we have not found yet. So I'll leave that as like kind of an open question. But anyway, next one is death a boundary or a transformation? What do paranormal experiences teach us about what comes next?
I would say yes. I would say it's a boundary and it's a transformation. It's a boundary because we can't get to the other side unless you pass away. Potentially. Is it a transformation? Yeah. I believe when you pass away, physically you pass away, but I also believe your energy goes somewhere else. What do paranormal experiences teach us about what comes next? I think the paranormal quagmire paradigm of what if is so quagmire is so vast and varied and uncertain that you can't write a book and just say this is how it is. I think there's so many different experiences and so many different things that have happened to humanity throughout time that it's just going to be too much. And to be able to find a consistent baseline of things that you can say, okay, this has happened. So this is how this happens at this point, or this happened because of this reason or that. I don't think that'll ever be the case. Because I think if we as humanity ever figured out the other side of the veil, the line, as I call it, then sure, it may give the purpose of life clarity, but then it also may cause many more problems. And I don't think humanity would be ready for that. So, what about you?
Well, me, I agree on a boundary. It is a boundary. Transformation would be you don't have your vessel no more, which is your body. You would just be a form of energy floating around that really nobody could see. And what do paranormal experiences teach us about what comes next? I agree with a lot what you say, but I also agree with a lot of what we found.
And I
That you're
agree.
being tested in.
And I agree with the things you don't say. I just want to let you know that.
Okay, thank you. And so what I'm saying is, excuse me, I got dry throat. So what it is what comes next? Well, the first thing that comes to mind about what comes next is reincarnation, but that's not exactly what comes next. We have found in paranormal research, at least I have, and I believe Pax has, maybe some other paranormal people out there, but you're being tested in the afterlife as well. So you're not only being tested in your life, and I've mentioned this before, but I believe you're being tested in the afterlife. And that test, so the test you're doing now is a test that you're going to come back and you're going to finish, you're going to start where you finished. If you didn't accomplish what you were supposed to in this life, you're supposed to try to do it in your next life. But to move up the ladder, you gotta commit to other tests in the afterlife that you gotta do. Like could be a guardian angel, could be whatever. But I think you're being tested. There's different levels. We've had EVPs of people, spirits and entities saying, "Hey, I paid my dead time. I want to move on." Is that purgatory? I don't think so. But I do believe what comes next is going to be another test. And then that leads into reincarnation. And then you come back and you try to finish what you should have. And once you do that, then you can move forward in life. And during that lifetime, try to move to the next level of what you're supposed to be, if that makes any sense to you.
Yep.
That's my opinion.
It does.
So final question. Whew. Page 352. If the veil between worlds thinned permanently, how would society change?
I think society would fall apart completely. I think from my experience, I've met a few dozen people that are gifted, that are intuitive, who are empathic, who are psychics, people that can touch things and get impressions or thoughts or memories or smells, people that have dreams that can communicate, people that can communicate on a regular basis with their spirit guides, for instance. These are just a handful of people. These are individuals that don't know each other, and they're very varied and random of how their lives are compared to everybody else. And the thing about them is there are not many people that are gifted like this. And if there's a handful of people throughout the world that are privy and lucky or honored, or however you want to coin it as, that are able to have these abilities, to have the veil go back and then make it to where the majority of humanity is susceptible to the other side, to see things, to experience things, to understand things, bad or good, I think it would put in check every single religion that's out there. I think it would put in check the history of every single race, creed, and color. And what I mean by in check is everybody is going to look at history with a fine tooth, magnifying glass and say, how did we miss this? Where did we go wrong? What were people trying to say that we did not catch or understand? Because if anything, humanity likes thinking they're in charge. They like to think that they're the apex predator of the world. They like to think that they are the most smartest, advanced race and creature that walks on this planet. And if this type of event happened, it would not only rewrite history, it would put so many different things throughout the world in question. It would put theology in question, religion. It would put science in question. It would put technology in question. It would put everything that we would know as a species in question. And do I think it would break everybody's brain? 120%. Except for the individuals that were already predispositioned and disposed of having experiences and already seeing glimpses or having contact with the other side. Now, do I say all this loosely or just as what if? No, this is my honest opinion. Because if anything, people want to understand this would be too much of a change that would happen too quick. And there would be no prep time for people to ramp up to it, to accept. And yeah, I think society would literally crumble. I think things would become anarchic. I think it would just be ugly. Not to get pessimistic or negative or dark, but that's the truth. At least from my opinion. And that's my theory here at Theory of Paranormal. Your turn, Dalton.
Well, I agree with you a lot because, first of all, I'm going to say this right here. If the veil between worlds thinned, you're probably going to see things you don't want to see. People, and I got a dry throat. I'm so very, very sorry. People have their thoughts, they have their beliefs, they have their religion, they have their process of how their mind operates about God and Jesus and the devil and spirits and ghosts. If you took like a lot of these people wouldn't know how to handle it because all they believe in, and again, we're not trying to change anybody's beliefs, but I'm going to say it how it is. They just believe in heaven and hell. Those are two places. If you opened up a veil and showed even multiple realms, like maybe you look to your left and there's one realm, and you look to your right and there's another realm.
And by realm, Dalton is talking places of existence, places where other realities or ways of life could be.
Right. So say you drop the curtain. Let's just say the veil's a curtain, which is basically what it is. You drop the curtain, and all of a sudden now you're seeing. Let's say this. Let's not talk about demons, ghosts, or spirits. Let's talk about what if you drop the veil, the curtain, and you look to your left and you see you 20 years from now in the future. What kind of veil is opening then? What would people think about? I mean, they couldn't. There's no thought process because first of all, I agree. Like the veil between worlds, humanity's reactions would likely be chaotic, spanning the full spectrum of psychological, social, cultural responses. The experience would be fundamentally destabilizing, blurring the lines between reality and supernatural. Now, basically, psychological and individual reactions could be panic and anxiety, disassociation and questioning reality, psychological distress, heightened intuition, or spiritual awakening. Now, that one would actually fall upon people that have already have abilities. Again, I don't use the word gift. We're not above anybody. But do we have abilities? Yes. Everybody has an ability. It's just whether you open it or not. confirmation and validation. This is what I was just talking about. Individuals who have long held paranormal beliefs would feel vindicated, while skeptics and rational people basically, would have their worldview fundamentally challenged. And this is what he was talking about as well. And I'm talking about, like, all these religious folks, if the veil dropped and they just seen something totally different, you just changed, like, everything they believe is in question now. Everything that they thought about is in question. And so think to yourself, how would those people react to that? They don't react well when you tell them you're a paranormal investigation, because we're just out here chasing demons. That's what we're doing. They don't they swear to their Bible that was written by man, that, which the Bible actually talks about astral projection. It talks about ghosts and spirits and all that stuff. It talks about the paranormal in the Bible in a certain way. They just don't read it that way. And I don't knock them. Again, I'm not trying to knock them. I'm just saying it's there. If you read between the lines, the Bible talks about the paranormal in there. Just read it. So you would have mainstream religions, basically established religions, would face a crisis. Some might interpret the thinning veil as a sign of the end of times. How many times have you heard that? Increasing fundamentalism and fear. Others might adapt to incorporate the newly confirmed spiritual forces either as angels or demons or something else entirely. Now, if we drop the curtain and a bunch of angels appeared, I'm going to tell you this from what I've read in a lot of books. A lot of angels are not friendly. They do not like human beings. They do not like the fact that we have that God has given us. I'm just going to talk religion a minute. That I'm not religious. I don't think there's a God, but let me speak layman's terms.
This is Dalton's theory.
Right, Dalton's theory. So that God has given us free will, but did not give them free will, and that's kind of why they don't like us. So don't think all angels are angels. You'll have chaos and vigilante justice, cultural fragmentation. I could go on. There's a long list. So basically what you said, if the curtain dropped and exposed different, and I would say if the curtain dropped all around us in a 360, we're going to see multiple realms. We're going to see multiple dimensions of different things. It's not just going to be one thing surrounding us. I believe that there is multiple things surrounding us. One of them being on this side of the wall, you're here today in this time. On the other side of that curtain, it could be 20 years later in your life or 20 years earlier in your life. It could be you in the past or you in the future. I believe that because somewhere they say you always got a doppelganger, running around, somebody that looks like you, resembles you. And I just think, well, that's just because how many different life forms and features can you actually put on a human being, and how many people are in the world? So yeah, you're going to have some duplicates, but they're just hoping that we're far enough apart we're never going to run each other. But you always get somebody goes, hey man, you look so familiar. I met you, a year ago at this party. No, that wasn't me. Well, I'm sure it was you. There's a guy who looked just like you. Okay, well, he might have featured me, but he didn't look like me. There's a difference, and it happens. But if the curtain dropped, yes, mayhem. Man, I don't, but let's say the curtain dropped and demons came through, now we're talking about a whole nother problem. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I got you.
That would be crazy.
That would be crazy. Well, that was a lot of questions we just answered there.
Yeah, like I said, I wrote a book while I was doing this. But yeah, thank you, Jamie and Ashley. We appreciate those questions. They were pretty well written.
Yep, appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Yep, pretty thought out. And as many questions we answered, you probably just had some questions that other people would have liked to ask, and we just answered those too. So
yep,
there you go. So
for anybody that's new to Theory of Paranormal or returning, we will remind you, we do have a website up, theoryparanormal.com. It's going to list a little bit about us. It's going to show all the latest and greatest podcast sites that Theory of Paranormal is on. And also, it's going to have our most recent podcast up if you're just wanting to go straight to it and not have to mess with a podcast app that you use. It'll be right there. If you have any questions, thoughts, concerns for Theory Paranormal, or want to submit any evidence, whether it's photo, video, or audio, you can email that to us at info@theoryparanormal.com. You can go to theoryparanormal.com, and there's actually a place that you can submit it on there. You have the option also to do real-time chat and ask us questions. And there's even a telephone number at theoryparanormal.com towards the bottom of the page should you have any questions. Some people actually like picking up a phone and calling and leaving a voicemail, which we do get back to people on. So we decided to implement that too. Should you have any questions, we are more than happy to answer anything you have. Anything that you do ask or submit does stay private, and we will review it, give a professional opinion on it, and we will get back with you. If you just want to give any commentary on what you think of the podcast, particular episode, or maybe something in particular, or you have a question that you want to have asked that you would like for us to answer, we will be more than happy to do that also. So,
With any evidence that you post and you decide you want us to put it on there, we're welcome to do that. And also remember, check out the Theory Paranormal Facebook page and give us a like. There's a bunch of evidence on there. It's kind of old evidence until we get some new investigations done and get some new stuff up there. But there is some evidence up there. Feel free to go check it out. But definitely check out the website. And thank you for listening. And again, thank you, Jamie and Ashley, for the questions. I enjoyed that, actually.
Yeah, that was very nice. Thank you very much, Jamie and Ashley. And lastly, we would like to thank all the listeners that listen to Theory Paranormal throughout the world. We literally have people from every continent around the world and many, many countries listening to Theory Paranormal. So we appreciate your interest in us, and we hope that you are enjoying our podcasts. So it's that time here at Theory Paranormal. As we always say, don't be afraid to ask questions.